Es gibt keinerlei Reichweitenbeschränkungen mehr für Waffen, die an die Ukraine geliefert worden sind, weder von den Briten noch von den Franzosen noch von uns, von den Amerikanern auch nicht. Das heißt also, die Ukraine kann sich jetzt auch verteidigen, indem sie zum Beispiel militärische Stellungen in Russland angreift. Das konnte sie bis vor einiger Zeit nicht. Das hat sie bis vor einiger Zeit auch bis auf ganz wenige Ausnahmen nicht getan. Das kann sie jetzt. Wir nennen das im Jargon Long Range Fire, also auch mit Waffen die Ukraine auszustatten, die militärische Ziele im Hinterland angreifen. Und das ist der entscheidende qualitative Unterschied in der Kriegsführung der Ukraine. Russland greift völlig rücksichtslos zivile Ziele an, bombardiert Städte, Kindergärten, Krankenhäuser, Altenheime. Das tut die Ukraine nicht. Und da legen wir auch sehr viel Wert darauf, dass das so bleibt. Aber ein Land, das sich nur im eigenen Territorium einem Angreifer entgegenstellen kann, verteidigt sich nicht ausreichend.
This is my video update on this Tuesday afternoon, May the 27th. Coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Rockck Mertz and his announcement that restrictions for long-range missile strikes have been lifted. That is what Rockck Mertz said yesterday in an interview. This is not new news coming from Mertz. Basically, what Mertz is doing is he's repeating what Biden announced way back in November. And Mertz is repackaging this announcement as if it was something new, as if he came up with this lifting of restrictions. Mertz said in his statement that the UK, France, Germany, and the United States have all lifted long-range missile strike restrictions into the Russian Federation. Mertz talked about missiles hitting the Russian hinterland. I believe that's the word that he used. The long-range missiles striking at Russia's hinterland. Mertz said, let me find you his quote, "We will do everything in our power to continue supporting Ukraine militarily," the chancellor said. "There are no longer any range restrictions on weapons supplied to Ukraine, neither for the British nor the French, nor from us, nor from the Americans." So when he talks about long-range missiles, he is talking about the Scalp missile for France, the Storm Shadow for the UK, and ATACMS for the United States. And for Germany, he is talking about perhaps the last and final wonder weapon in the Project Ukraine saga, and that is the Taurus missile. Taurus missiles have an operational range of 500 kilometers, meaning they could be used to attack targets deep inside Russian territory, potentially even reaching the nation's capital. Russia has repeatedly warned Germany that deliveries to Ukraine would make Berlin a direct participant in the conflict. Remember that audio leak that came out a couple of years ago with the two German officials, military officials, and they were talking about destroying the Crimea Kerch Bridge, and they were talking about Taurus missiles and using Taurus missiles to do that. And the German military officials said that the Taurus missile would not be able to be launched by the Ukraine military. It would need German or NATO military officials to launch the Taurus, and they said that those military officials would have to be in Ukraine on the ground, actually pushing the button to launch those missiles. And of course, you have the surveillance and satellite and targeting that would be needed by the United States. So if there were to ever be a Taurus missile, which does have the capability of reaching Moscow and could carry a nuclear payload, it could have a nuclear warhead. If I understand the Taurus missile, I think it could have nukes. But if there ever were to be a Taurus missile launched into Russia, then that would mean that NATO, Germany, the United States would be a direct participant in the conflict in attacking Russia with a long-range missile. So that's Mertz's statement. His vice chancellor, by the way, when Merz came out with this announcement, his vice chancellor walked it back a bit, or at least he clarified Mertz's statement, because when Merz was talking about lifting restrictions, as I said, this is not new. Basically, what Merz was doing is just repeating what Biden said, and he wanted to make it as if he's the one that came up with this lifting of the restriction. He's the tough guy taking on Putin and supporting the Green Goblin. But this was Biden policy from way back in November, October. But his vice chancellor and Merz did not say specifically that Taurus missiles have been sent to Ukraine. He did not say that. I think Taurus missiles have been sent to Ukraine. I think they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere. I think the Taurus missiles were sent back when Olaf Scholz was chancellor, and NATO, Germany, they're just waiting for the United States to give the okay. And then who knows what could happen if the U.S. were to give the okay. Because if the missile was to be launched into the Russian Federation, that would be a huge escalation. Keep in mind that Russia's nuclear doctrine, they changed it up. At the time when Biden approved ATACMS into the Russian Federation, Putin, he came out with a statement, and he said that long-range missile strikes could be viewed by Russia as an attack on the Russian Federation, including a nuclear attack on the Russian Federation. And he said that if a country launches long-range missiles into Russia, a non-nuclear country, but it launches those long-range missiles into Russia with the help in coordination with a nuclear power, France, the UK, or the United States, then Russia would view that country, in this instance Ukraine, as launching nuclear weapons into Russia. And you could have a whole different conflict from that moment on. Anyway, what was I saying? His vice chancellor came out with a statement and clarified that Germany has not changed its policy when it comes to Taurus missiles from the administration of Scholz up until today. They have not changed that policy, which is basically the vice chancellor saying that Germany has not sent Taurus missiles to Ukraine. That's the official statement from the German government. My guess would be that Taurus missiles are in Ukraine and they're just waiting. They're sitting in a warehouse waiting for the U.S. administration to say, okay, fire those missiles. Zelensky is actually traveling to Berlin, I believe, today in order to seize on this statement from Merz. But the reports are that Zelensky's going to meet with Merz. He's going to hug him. Merz is going to get a smell of Zelensky number 5. He's going to get a nice whiff of that Zelensky number 5. Maybe they're going to have some drinks with Merz's stir that he likes to use when he drinks his cocktails. But the reports are that Merz is not going to tell Zelensky that they're going to be firing Taurus missiles into the Russian Federation. Those are the latest reports that I've read about the situation with the Taurus missiles. So what we have going on right now is, in my opinion, Mertz coming out with this statement and just basically repackaging what Biden said, is that we have more pressure, a new pressure being placed on the Trump administration to continue to support Ukraine, to continue to escalate with Russia, to break off diplomatic normalization, negotiations, talks with Russia and with the Putin administration. You had the pressure of sanctions. You have this unbelievable pressure that's being placed on the Trump administration to put sanctions on Russia, knowing that once Trump were to put sanctions on Russia, then that would mean that the U.S. is recommitted, fully committed. The Trump administration is fully committed to Project Ukraine and is not walking away from Project Ukraine, and more importantly, is not walking away from Europe and NATO, and the washing machine will continue to spin and to spin and to spin. But now they've come up with another pressure to put on the Trump administration, and that is long-range missile strikes into Russia. That's what I think this is all about. They now want to pressure Trump to go along with Mertz, to go along with the Europeans, and to say, yes, if Putin continues to send drones into Ukraine, or continues to launch its Iskanders into Ukraine, or if Putin refuses to agree to a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, we're not only going to threaten Russia with bone-crushing sanctions, but what we will do is we will green light long-range missile strikes into the Russian Federation, including allowing Germany to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine. Remember that for the Taurus missiles to go to Ukraine, they need the approval, Germany needs the approval of the United States, because the Taurus missile has American components and parts. That's why I think the Taurus missile has already been sent to Ukraine, because I think that the Biden administration secretly told Olaf Scholz, okay, send the Taurus missiles to Ukraine, and we'll sit on it, and we'll see if we decide to actually launch those missiles into Russia, heading towards Moscow. I bet you if Harris had won, she would have given the green light for the Taurus missiles to already be used, because the panic that is now setting in from NATO and the collective West, that Ukraine is losing, the panic is is big, man. There is big time panic. Ukraine is losing the conflict, and they are getting desperate, and they do not want Trump to walk away from this. They actually want to find ways to try and commit Trump to Project Ukraine. Actually, the New York Times put out an article today where they said that it does look like Trump is trying to walk away from Project Ukraine, and he's very hesitant on placing sanctions on Russia. So anyway, that's what this whole Taurus missile thing is about. Not a new announcement, a repackaging of a Biden-era policy, but they're making it to appear as if this is a new announcement, as if this is a big escalation, as if this is something that the United States has agreed to, just recently agreed to, along with the other European powers, because they are trying to sabotage the Trump administration and trying to recommit the United States and to commit Trump to Project Ukraine. That's what's going on here. That's why Mertz made this statement. That's why you have the sanctions pressure, big-time sanctions pressure. You had Lindsey Graham, who put out an article on the Wall Street Journal, an opinion on the Wall Street Journal, with the title, "The U.S. Senate Won't Tolerate Putin's Games, plural." Senator Lindsey Graham sends a message to Moscow, and in this opinion piece written by bone crusher Lindsey Graham, he says, "The Senate is prepared either way. I have coordinated with the White House on the Russia sanctions bill since its inception. The bill would put Russia on a trade island, slapping 500% tariffs on any country that buys Moscow's energy products. The consequences of its barbaric invasion must be made real to those that prop it up. If China and India stopped buying cheap oil, Mr. Putin's war machine would grind to a halt. That is what Graham posted on in the Wall Street Journal about coordinating with Trump on 500% secondary bone-crushing sanctions. Graham is very, very desperate to get Trump to agree on his sanctions scheme, which would hurt the United States more than any other country. As Rand Paul said in an article that he posted on Responsible Statecraft, if the Trump administration were to approve sanctions against Russia, especially the 500% sanctions against Russia, this would effectively be an embargo that would not put Russia on an island, but would put the United States on an island. Russia would be okay. India would not go with this. China would not go with this, and just about every country outside of the collective West would reject this 500% secondary sanctions scheme proposed by the Senate and by Lindsey Graham. It would isolate the United States, and that is a point that Rand Paul made. But they are still pushing for sanctions. The Wall Street Journal has an article with the title, "Trump Weighs Sanctions Against Russia as Relationship with Putin Sours." The first paragraph of the Wall Street Journal of this article says President Trump is eyeing sanctions against Moscow this week as he grows frustrated by Russian President Vladimir Putin's continued attacks on Ukraine and the slow pace of peace talks, according to people familiar with Trump's thinking. Not according to Trump White House officials, not according to anonymous sources inside the White House. Nope, the first paragraph of the Wall Street Journal article, which claims that Trump is going to slap sanctions on Russia this week, is coming from people familiar with Trump's thinking. Who could that be? It could be any. That could be me. That could be me. Could be Mertz. Could be Macron. Could be Bridget the slapper Macron. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. People familiar with Trump's thinking. You're familiar with Trump's thinking. I'm familiar with Trump's thinking. The whole freaking world is familiar with Trump's thinking. That's the source that Wall Street Journal goes with when they talk about Trump placing sanctions on Russia. And the New York Times ran an article saying that Trump is hesitant about placing sanctions on Russia. The Wall Street Journal hates the Trump administration, and they absolutely want to keep the conflict in Ukraine going. This is all about pressure. It's all about putting pressure on the Trump White House to commit to Project Ukraine, to Europe, and to NATO. That's what all of this is about. Will he do it? He might. He might say, okay, sanctions on Russia. Maybe he doesn't put 500% sanctions, the bone-crushing sanctions. Maybe he approves other types of sanctions. Maybe Trump does green light the Taurus missile strikes into Russia. Here's a question for everybody. Has the United States launched long-range missile strikes into Russia since January 21st? I don't think they have. I remember in December, January, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not very good with dates and times, but I remember missile strikes, long-range missile strikes, Storm Shadow, Scalp, and ATACMS around December, January. But I'm just not sure if those missile strikes were before Trump's inauguration or after. But I don't think that since Trump was inaugurated, we've had long-range missile strikes into pre-2014 Russia. I do remember that Trump, as he was campaigning, actually put out a statement. He put out many statements saying that he is absolutely against Biden's policy of long-range missile strikes into Russia. He said that this was a dangerous and very stupid policy from the Biden administration. The Kiev Post has an article with the title, "Trump seriously considering lifting all Biden-era restrictions on Ukraine's war effort, sources say." This is a coordinated collective West mainstream media operation that's going on right now, coordinated. The media is running with these stories. They're citing sources familiar with this, sources familiar with that, sources who knows Trump's thinking. This is a coordinated operation to try and completely submarine the rapprochement between the United States and Russia. Absolutely coordinated. No freaking doubt about it. So what does Pescov have to say about all of this? What did he say about Mertz's statement? Kremlin reacts to West lifting limits on long-range weapons for Ukraine. If such decisions have indeed been made, they are entirely at odds with our aspirations for political resolution and with the efforts currently being made towards a settlement, Peskov stated. Quite dangerous decisions, again, if they were indeed made, he stressed. If they were indeed made. Peskov, he says some very, very smart stuff. Peskov. He's basically saying that Mertz is not fooling us. Mertz is not fooling us. You're repackaging Biden's policy from November. Until we hear it from Trump, then we're not buying it. That's what Pescov is saying in this statement. Trump is going to have to come out with a statement saying, I'm giving the go-ahead for Taurus missiles to be launched into the Russian Federation because I'm tired that Putin just will not accept the 30-day unconditional ceasefire. A statement like that has to come out for Russia to then come out with a statement saying that negotiations, talks with the United States, it's over. That's what needs to happen. But until then, the Kremlin's not buying it. Peskov is not buying it. By the way, Peskov also commented on Trump's statement from yesterday where he said that Putin is going crazy. He's going crazy, man. I don't know what's up with Putin. He's going crazy. Anyway, Peskov, he completely downplayed it. He said that the start of the negotiation process, to which Peskov said the United States has contributed significantly, is a very important moment, which is fraught with emotional overload on all sides. He also stressed that Putin makes decisions required for the security of our country, while recalling that Ukraine had openly threatened foreign leaders earlier this month before their arrival in Moscow for the celebrations marking the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. Basically, Peskov is saying that everyone is stressed out. It's a difficult situation. It's a complicated situation. It's not an easy solution. A lot of stress, a lot of emotions, a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure falling on the Trump White House. We understand. There's a lot of pressure. That's what Peskov's saying. We get it. There's a lot of pressure. But don't forget, Trump, don't forget that the Zelensky regime was threatening world leaders on Victory Day. That's basically the message from Peskov. And the drone strikes and the missile strikes into Ukraine over the past couple days are in retaliation for the hundreds, the thousands of drones that Ukraine has been launching into Russia over the past month. And Putin, as president of the Russian Federation, he has to look after the security of the country. That's Peskov's statement. So I think that is everything. That covers the Taurus missile story from Rockck Mertz. So the European Union, they are They are calling for the oil price ceiling to be lowered, according to the Financial Times, against Russia from $60 to $45. Why 45? Why not make it minus 45? I think that's a better policy if you're Europe. How do they come up with the number 45? I believe Russia says that in order to break even, they need to have the price of oil be at 45 or 42, something like that. So maybe that's where they're getting this number from, to keep Russia at break even or something along those lines. I don't know. Instead of 60, 45, because the $60 a barrel price ceiling, that was a huge success. It was such a huge success that we'll lower it even more. No, it was a huge failure. It was an incredible failure. And you know what else it did? It pissed off OPEC. It pissed off Saudi Arabia, because when the collective West, when Biden and the Europeans came out demanding that the price of oil be set at $60, man, did Saudi Arabia get upset, and OPEC got really upset. Who are you, Europeans and the United States, collective West, to tell us what the price of oil should be? They got very, very upset at that. So they're not going to like this statement either from the Europeans, but this time around they're just going to laugh at the EU, as the whole world is laughing at the EU. German media, Süddeutsche Zeitung. There's an article from German media, from this outlet, which claims that the EU and US talks on sanctions coordination against Russia is failing. That is what this outlet is reporting. The EU and the US are no longer moving in the same direction when it comes to imposing economic sanctions against Russia, and the parties have also stopped coordinating actions to combat the circumvention of anti-Russian sanctions, the publication writes, citing a report from the German Foreign Ministry. So they cite a report from the German Foreign Ministry, so that's accurate. That must be accurate, that there is panic, there is a concern that the US is moving in the direction of no sanctions, and the EU is moving in the direction of $45 oil and 18 sanctions package and all of this nonsense that hasn't worked and will not work. And they're concerned about this. They cannot get the US on board with the failing EU sanctions policy. Why will the US not agree to get on board with the EU's failing policies? Why don't you want to join us in failure? I don't understand. You don't want to fail with us? What's wrong with you, Trump? But they're citing a German Foreign Ministry report, as opposed to the Wall Street Journal, which is citing someone familiar with how Trump is thinking. Oh, what else? What else? The Washington Post, they are reporting that the Iskanders, not only the Iskanders, I believe the Kinzhals as well, that the missiles that were fired into Ukraine over the past couple of days, that the Ukraine air defense systems, the Patriots, were unable to knock any missiles down. Completely failed, the Patriot air defense system. Ukraine's dire need for Patriots was apparent over Memorial Day weekend, when its air defense forces failed to intercept any of the 9 ballistic missiles launched Saturday night and early on Sunday. 2 of the missiles were directed at Kiev, according to Ukraine's air defense forces, where at least 2 Patriot units were believed to be stationed. Basically, the Washington Post is admitting that the Patriot systems are unable to defend against the Russian missiles. The Russian hypersonic missiles? The hypersonic missiles, the blueprints that Putin stole from Obama? Is that what the Washington Post is talking about? Damn it, Putin, how did you steal those blueprints? I think I remember think I remember when Putin stole those blueprints from Obama. I do remember. Do you guys remember that time where they met, Putin and Obama? I forgot where. I want to say it was, I want to say Sochi. Did Obama make a trip to Sochi to meet with Putin? I forgot the summit. Anyway, I remember that they were sitting down and they were having tea. And yeah, there's a video out there of Putin and Obama sitting down having tea. And do you guys remember Obama took out the blueprints to the hypersonic missiles and he said, hey, Vladimir, check this out. And Putin said, what is that? And Obama said, hypersonic missiles. And Putin said, hypersonic missiles? What are you talking about? What are hypersonic missiles? And Obama said, these missiles go fast, man. We're talking really fast, like super fast. And Putin said, wow. And then Obama said, yeah, man, here are the complete blueprints. Everything in detail right here. And then Obama got up and he went to the bathroom. And then Putin took the blueprints. I remember that. I remember that. Oh, man. So The Economist is saying that Russia is outproducing the U.S. on missiles. The Economist calculated that Russia is producing ballistic missiles faster than the U.S. is producing interceptors for the Patriot systems. According to estimates, Russia is capable of producing about 750 ballistic missiles annually. This is 100 more than the U.S. side will be able to produce in the near future. That's what it means to have an economy that is in tatters. An economy in tatters always outproduces an economy that is not in tatters. It's an economic theory, actually. It is an economic theater. It's called tatteromics. It's called tatteromics. Economies that are in tatters are really good at producing missiles. Very, very good at producing missiles. All kinds of things. They're good at producing all kinds of things. Economies that are in tatters. The gas station masquerading as a country. So, yeah, the sanctions are really working, Collective West. They're working so well that Russia is cranking out, according to The Economist, 750 ballistic missiles annually. I bet you that number is a lot higher than what The Economist is putting out there. A lot higher. So the cargo ship that was leaving Turkey when the Istanbul talks were taking place, that the Russian Ministry of Defense blew up that cargo ship from Turkey going to Ukraine. According to reports, that cargo ship was carrying all kinds of ammunition and weapons. As Turkey was hosting the Istanbul talks a couple of weeks ago, as they were hosting these talks, as Turkey was mediating these talks, there are reports which claim that there was a ship full of weapons making its way to Ukraine, and then the Russian Ministry of Defense put out a statement saying that they blew this ship apart, knowing that it was full of weapons. Turkish aid burned down in Odessa. While negotiations were being prepared in Istanbul on May 16, a cargo ship with ammunition and weapons headed for Ukraine sailed from the port there. The action was carried out in complete secrecy, but Russian intelligence revealed everything, and soon all the gifts from Turkey exploded. I can't confirm these reports. Obviously, I cannot confirm these reports. But the Russian Ministry of Defense, I believe they did come out with a statement saying that they did hit a cargo ship that was full of weapons. Whether Turkey was in the know or not, can't confirm this. Those are the reports that we are getting from pro-Russian channels. Turkey has not commented on this. The Kremlin has not said anything about Turkey. Actually, they're going to host most likely they're going to have Turkey host the next round of talks as well. But if this story is true, and I say if, then Turkey Erdogan is just playing, well, he's doing what he likes to do, actually. He's doing what he always does, which is he is playing a double game. This is Erdogan's specialty. Anyway, that's an interesting report. And let's wrap up this video with a clown world. And we are going to go back to the slap heard around the world. Macron landing in Vietnam, and not so much of a slap as much as a, I don't know, as a shove, as a punch. How would you describe what Brigitte Macron did to little Napoleon? Was that a slap, or was that more of like a smack, a push? I don't know, a punch, an open-handed punch. I don't know. But anyway, it was embarrassing for little Napoleon. Absolutely embarrassing. At first, they tried to say, the Elysee Palace tried to say this was fake news, but the fact that this was taken by an Associated Press cameraman and reporter meant that they could not say this was fake news or AI or anything like that. So they accepted that this happened, and they said that this was just playful banter. They were just joking around, Brigitte and Emmanuel. And then they went with the next best story, Plan B. They could not say that this was AI or this was a fake video, so they went with Plan B, blaming it on, you guessed it, Russia and the far right. That's right. Russia and the far right. According to The Guardian, Emmanuel Macron says video of wife pushing him shows them joking around. French president denies quarreling with Brigitte Macron after footage is seized on by Russia and far right accounts. According to The Guardian, Emmanuel Macron has denied he and his wife Brigitte had an altercation after a viral video promoted by Russian state media and French far-right accounts appeared. It appeared to show her pushing him in the face as they prepared to get off a plane in Vietnam. It appeared as if she was pushing him in the face or slapping him or something like that. It appeared. That's how it appeared. But actually, what was going on is playful, loving, flirting, banter. They were flirting. Affection. It was an affectionate moment. Anyway, The Guardian says the video, shot by an Associated Press camera operator, shows the French president appearing in the doorway of the plane at the start of a visit to Hanoi. His wife's hand appears to shove him, causing him to step back before recovering and waving. Brigitte Macron's body is not visible, and her husband told reporters afterwards the gesture was playful. So The Guardian says that Brigitte Macron's body is not visible. So maybe it wasn't even Brigitte Macron. They're placing doubts in the minds of readers. Maybe it wasn't even Brigitte Macron. Maybe it was a ghost hand. I don't know. They're covering for Macron. They are covering hard for Macron. How embarrassing for little Napoleon. How very, very embarrassing for Macron. Now, a lot of people are talking about the flight attendant that was in the video. I can't make it out, but maybe you guys can make it out. I can't figure out, maybe she had a uniform malfunction or something, but it looks like part of her uniform had come off or was ripped off or something happened. But people are talking about it. Maybe we're looking into it a bit too much. Maybe we're overanalyzing. Anyway, it does look like something happened to the uniform of the flight attendant. A lot of people are asking questions. What's going to happen now with Macron? My prediction is that in the next day or two, little Napoleon is going to come out with a statement where he is going to talk tough against Russia and against Putin. He is going to to do some of his flip-flopping and talk about how France is going to send 5,000 troops or 10,000 troops or 20,000 troops into Ukraine, into Odessa, and they're going to fight Russia, and he's going to defeat Putin. And he's going to come out with this statement. He has to come out with this statement because he has to regain his Jupiter-ness, his Napoleonic persona. He has to regain what he has lost in this slap. Anyway, that is the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. Hello, my friend. How are you? We are on Locals. We are on Telegram and Rumble and all kinds of video platforms. What else? I got to 230,000 subscribers on YouTube finally. I was stuck at 229,000 for about a month and a half. It seemed like about 2 months I was on 229,000. So YouTube, they finally let me get to 230,000. So thank you to everybody that has subscribed to this channel. I will see everyone tomorrow. Take care.